The work of art in the age of fundamentalist neoliberalism.
This is no longer a series where you outsmart your opponents, it's a series where you press the roll button at the right time.
My original title was Universes Beyond Was Always Gonna Happen, but since the Marvel Cinematic Universe brought the word inevitable into the mainstream, it would be rude to pass up on the potential meme engagement. But yeah, Universes Beyond was always gonna happen. A lot of internet commentators think that their favorite game is ensconced in a revered vacuum, hermetically sealed from the world in which it exists. It does not. It is prone to the vicissitudes and false value structures of our current economic system, same as everything else. It's fascinating to read about the history of Wizards of the Coast when the company was first founded. Scrappiness, the name origin, the million little things that had to synchronize so that Magic the Gathering could be developed and launched. When contrasted with the company's current activities of spewing out whichever IP crossover will make the most money, it feels almost noble. However, there is no decline here or falling away from an ideal. These two scenarios are simply different stages on the same journey. They're not poles or dichotomous or really opposed in any way. When Peter Atkinson sold his company to Hasbro, he just accelerated the process. I'm not an expert economist like most who have reacted to Universes Beyond, but if a game like Magic can be shown to be profitable, then its profit-seeking overlords will do everything they can to maximize that profit, longevity of the game, and player satisfaction be damned. That is every private company's mission, not stewardship of a beloved game, artistic expression, or any of the ideas foisted upon Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast by the Cool Stuff Inc. lot. When the unbounded profiteering kills the game, it will simply find the next thing it can profit from. Criticism of Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, even if it's punctuated by paid shilling for meal planning kits, is criticism of our current economic system. Essence of capitalism is to turn nature into commodities and commodities into capital. The live green earth is transformed into dead gold bricks, with luxury items for the few and toxic slack heaps for the many. The glittering mansion overlooks a vast sprawl of shanty towns, wherein a desperate, demoralized humanity is kept in line with drugs, television, and armed force. Universes Beyond versus Magic the Gathering. There are two broad camps of MTG content. Well, three if you include me. You have the new release hype train, channels which make their money from essentially being an arm of Magic's marketing team, talking favorably, or at the very least neutrally, about all of the cool new stuff coming out that you should definitely buy. They usually cover EDH. Previously, they'd cover Standard too, although that seems to have been slowing down, probably due to the ease with which Arena lets players load up other formats. The other camp is the more independent one, slightly less dependent on Wizards of the Coast, and looking at the older 1v1 formats like Cube and Legacy. They will usually be sponsored by accessories companies or secondhand marketplaces. When both sides start to rail against Universes Beyond, you can tell there's a universal worry that the gravy train will be upset for everyone who depends on a living game for their income. I do not think that Magic is in a death spiral, but its powers of intrigue and fun are being juiced harder than ever. Deliver dollars for their holding company and its shareholders, dollars which the MTG content creators know will not be coming their way. The petrification of the more regularly updated aspects of the game, like new draftable sets and Magic's own intellectual property, are doubtless a bad thing for the game overall, but the immense reach of fan-created formats like EDH, Cube, and Pauper, along with the passionate and proliferated creation of fan-made cards, show strong evidence that Magic the Gathering could continue to exist as a public concern after it's been sunsetted. Daybreak Games, as a profit-making enterprise. The exploitable mechanics of Magic the Gathering. This brings us to the question, what is Magic the Gathering? There are a lot of ways you could define it, the rules, the history of the game, even the community. But Magic's core trademark mechanics are so elegantly and intuitively designed. Mark Rosewater would refer to the trading card game genre, the mana system, and the color pie as Richard Garfield's golden trifecta, that you can bolt on basically any fluff to them and make it work. Garfield himself did this when there was a sudden demand for additional Magic sets following the rip-roaring success of Alpha. He took a set of mechanics that had been designed for a high fantasy world and ported them onto the historical Arab world. Voila, Arabian Nights. It's a huge credit to the imaginative power of the set designers that Universes Beyond didn't happen before. But regardless of how cleverly formulated and lushly executed Magic worlds are, the bottled lightning of the mechanics was always waiting in the wings, ready to be adapted for whichever setting the profiteering charlatans thought they could juice the hardest. Looking back at the earlier crossovers, there's a lot of creativity and passion on display. The D&D and Warhammer ones even have the designers making the fluff and crunch connections with additional flavor words before abilities, and a lot of them land beautifully. Even with something as hastily assembled as Spider-Man, the designers were able to use the flying keyword and a simple 1-mana activation cost to give a very mimetic version of Spider-Man's artificial flight achieved via web slinging. Little design touches like these highlight the exceptional work that Magic's designers do every day, transforming whichever random and unsuitable collaboration Wizards of the Coast have dumped on them this time into something vaguely playable. Conclusion: trash into trash equals trash-flavored trash. A lot of the stuff released under the Magic the Gathering brand is, with the greatest of respect to the designers working on it, slop. That word is more associated with AI now, but the sense of uncreative and useless things, made because production must never cease rather than out of any real need, can be applied as far back as the post-World War II manufacturing boom. Rather than the intent to create a great, long-lived game and make money that way, we get the emptying and hollowing out of the great and long-lived game.
I don't want to make a little bit of money every day. I want to make a fuck ton of money all at once. ROI.
All of the years of creative talent and intentional design pummeled into a soft mass, then liquefied with a hand blender, a tiny bit of goodness poured into each half set or secret lair super drop. A shame, but an inevitable and predictable one with an obvious remedy.